I was hospitalized due to illness, and my boyfriend was running around taking care of everything for me. The auntie in the bed next to mine quietly asked when the two of us were getting married. I just smiled and shook my head without saying a word. He still doesn't know that I saw he had linked a game couple account with a girl saved in his contacts as Sele. That was last night, when he forgot to lock his phone while getting me some water. Chapter 1. The day I was discharged from the hospital. The biggest snowfall of the year blanketed the city. Marco took off his scarf and wrapped it around my neck, teasing me for looking like a little pig. I opened my mouth, but tears welled up in my eyes. He crouched down, held my hand, and looked up at me, asking gently what was wrong. I stared into those star-filled eyes of his. No matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't understand. How could someone cheat and still be this tender to me? Chapter 2. Marco's social media was filled with photos of me. Because I had rhinitis, he not only quit smoking himself, but also made sure his friends didn't smoke in front of me. Every time he came home after drinking, he'd wait 10 minutes in the hallway just so I wouldn't be bothered by the smell of alcohol on him. He remembered all my favorite foods, the products I liked to use. He even tracked my period better than I did. Last month, I went skiing in the Northeast with friends. Marco couldn't make it due to work, but he called and reminded me for half an hour to stay safe. My friends joked that he had eyes only for me, saying, "Turns out Mr. Marco is totally love-struck." But this very man was, in the game interface, linked as a couple with a girl I didn't even know. As of today, they had been bound for 147 days. Chapter 3. I craved spicy crawfish, chili crabs, anything intense and flavorful. Marco sweet-talked me into giving it up and made porridge for me instead. I sat by the dining table, watching his busy silhouette in the kitchen. Suddenly, I asked him, "Marco, can I play that game you usually play with you?" He paused for a moment, then smiled and patted my head. "Of course, silly. Since when did you like games?" The truth is, I don't get games at all. The interface alone irritates me. What's worse, Marco was clearly using an alternate account to play with me. After losing a round, I threw my phone onto the sofa. He didn't get mad. "Wanna do something else?" he asked, full and content. He pulled me into his arms on the couch. His breath brushed past my ear, his soft hair carrying the fresh scent of body wash. But I instinctively pushed him away. He raised an eyebrow in surprise, but just rubbed my belly and told me to sleep early. Marco, he really wasn't very guarded with me. You see, he didn't even lock his phone again. This time, I checked his Instagram. He'd used an Instagram account to play the game with me, but it was definitely his secondary account. After a bit of digging, I discovered he had a second Instagram app hidden in another folder. It was logged into another account. That account was almost empty, with just a few contacts, his close buddies. At the top of the chat list was a conversation with someone named Sele. Just as I opened the chat, a new message came in. "My stomach hurts so much. I feel awful. When are you breaking up with that woman?" I scrolled up. They'd exchanged a ridiculous number of messages, enough to make me feel they talked more in one day than Marco and I did in a whole month. 1 month ago, when I was skiing with friends in the Northeast, Marco couldn't come because of work. He called me and talked for half an hour, reminding me to be safe. That day, I found out, was Sele's birthday. The two of them went to a dog cafe we had once visited together. Someone even took a photo of them. The girl was holding a puppy with a sweet smile. Marco was looking at her, eyes filled with affection. My hands and feet went cold. I kept reading. Marco acted coy with her, said work was exhausting. They played games together. He teased her for being a noob, even when his office got a new plant. He took a picture to show her. The overtime he told me about? Almost all were dates with that girl. The more I read, the more I curled up, clutching my stomach. My surgery was for gastroenteritis, and now it felt like a relapse was kicking in. Even worse, I was so engrossed, I didn't notice the water had stopped running. I heard the bathroom door open behind me. "What's wrong? Stomach still hurting? Want to go to the hospital?" He lifted me from behind, the scent of his body wash filling my nose. His warm hand pressed against my abdomen, easing the pain for a moment. I lowered my eyes and stared at his phone, sitting on the table. Screen up just in time. The last message I saw was, Marco telling that girl, I haven't had feelings for her in a long time. The one I love is you. Chapter 4. The next day. I didn't wake Marco. I went to work on my own. Around noon, he sent me 2 messages. You just got out of the hospital. Don't eat anything cold. I ordered abalone millet porridge for you. Be good and eat it. Okay? Were you in a bad mood yesterday? Let's go see a movie after work. I turned off my phone screen. My stomach hurt. Marco finished class on time and came to pick me up from work. I didn't say a word and let him hold my hand as we walked to the theater. The movie was boring, and his phone kept buzzing. Halfway through, he suddenly leaned over and told me he had something urgent to deal with. I nodded and told him I'd head home after the movie, but he probably didn't expect me to follow him secretly when he left. Luckily, he was walking. If he'd driven, I wouldn't have been able to keep up. The destination was nearby, just a hospital around the corner. Marco, as eye-catching as ever, stood out easily in the crowd, so I saw it clearly. A girl came running out of a consultation room and threw her arms around him. Marco let her hug him, hands still in his coat pockets. He didn't hug her back, but he didn't pull away either. Chapter 5. I got home later than Marco. He was sitting at the dining table, tilting his head to look at me. I didn't plan to explain anything. I walked past him, but he grabbed my wrist. Why have you been so down lately? He kissed from behind my ear to my neck, but all I could think about was how that girl had clung to him. I flinched and pushed him away. Go take a shower. I avoided his eyes. He didn't really suspect anything. On his way out, he ruffled my hair like always. Marco, yeah, he's never been that guarded with me. Look, he didn't even lock his phone. This time, I checked his Instagram. He had played that game with me yesterday using an Instagram account, but it was clearly an alternate one. After poking around, I discovered he had another Instagram app hidden on his phone. It was logged into a second account. The account was nearly empty, just a few close friends. Pinned at the top was a chat with someone named Sele. Just as I opened the thread, a message from her came through. My stomach hurts so bad. I feel terrible. When are you going to break up with that woman? I scrolled up. They had talked a lot. So much that it felt like they talked more in one day than Marco and I did in a whole month. A month ago, when I went skiing in the Northeast, Marco said he couldn't join because of work. He called me and gave me safety tips for half an hour. But that day was Sele's birthday. The two of them went to the dog cafe he and I had once visited together. Someone even took a photo. She was smiling, cuddling a puppy. Marco was looking at her with unmistakable tenderness. My hands and feet went cold. Marco had sent her so many messages. He doted on her, complained about how hard work was. They played games together. He teased her for being a noob. Even when his office got a new plant, he sent her a photo. All that overtime he told me about, they were dates with that girl. The more I read, the more my stomach ached. I'd had surgery for gastroenteritis, and now it felt like it was flaring up again. Worse yet, I was so focused I didn't even notice the shower had stopped running. The bathroom door creaked open behind me. What's wrong? Does your stomach hurt again? Do you need to go to the hospital? He scooped me up. The scent of his body wash filled my nose. His warm hand pressed gently on my abdomen, momentarily easing the pain. I lowered my gaze. Right there on the table, barely within reach, lay his phone screen up. The last message I saw. Marco told that girl, I haven't felt anything for her in a long time. The one I love is you. Chapter 6. My mom had always been passionate about feeding me all kinds of food, so I developed a habit when I felt down. I'd eat like crazy, especially during that stressful time in high school. My weight shot up by over 30 pounds. Like most girls going through puberty, I cared a lot about my appearance, but the more anxious I got, the more I ate. The friendship circles among girls in our class had this strange surface-level harmony. I was often excluded, more or less, because of my size. Oversized uniforms, trailing behind in gym class, skirts I didn't dare wear. No one wanted to be friends with me, except Marco. I met him during our first year. When we were both chosen to give the welcome speech, he was the male student rep, and I was the female one. But compared to that one fleeting moment of spotlight for me, he was like the sun, brilliant and blinding, smart, handsome, popular. Girls who liked him were as numerous as fish in a river. But by chance, we ended up in the same tutoring class. Our similar grades often got compared by teachers. And over time, we got to know each other. I knew some boys in our class talked behind my back, called me fat, joked that no one would ever want to marry me, then burst into crude laughter. I heard it all. But Marco, he never once looked at me with that same disgusting gaze. When did I fall for Marco? It was probably that summer night at the tutoring class. He sat beside me with his backpack slung over one shoulder. The heat of summer in the air. He smiled, eyes curved in that boyish way. Completely pure. Just checked our scores. You beat me by 1 point again. How are you so smart? Mind letting me borrow that brain of yours? Marco never knew that I secretly peeked at his college preference list. Went home and calculated for days, making wishes in silence. In the end, both of us got into the same university. At our graduation party, a girl confessed to him. She came from a wealthy family, and was beautiful too. I sat quietly in the crowd, listening to the laughter and cheers. I really thought Marco would accept her, but he didn't. He politely turned her down. As the party came to an end, I sat alone at the farthest corner of the room. Living alone for so long had made me reserved. I was used to hiding myself, but he always seemed to find me. That night, Marco sat beside me, resting his chin in his hand, eyes half closed. I could feel him looking at me, but I didn't dare meet his gaze. After a long while, his soft, teasing voice sounded beside me. I like you. Want to give us a try? Chapter 7. When we started dating. I asked him why he would fall for someone as fat as me. He just laughed, then hugged me from behind. Because to me, you're adorable no matter what. Marco is a very peculiar person. His sense of morality is weak, and he always has unconventional ideas. That's why his cheating didn't completely surprise me. While I was with him, I lost weight, learned how to dress better, and socialized more through university clubs. I found out that I was actually quite popular. Even a younger student, not knowing I was in a relationship, confessed his feelings for me. I turned him down. I had always believed that loyalty was the foundation of a relationship. But clearly, Marco didn't see it that way. I got up in the middle of the night and ate the last piece of cake from the fridge, biting hard on the fork. I definitely can't seem to break my habit of compulsive eating, but it seemed like I hadn't gained weight in a long time. In fact, the number on the scale had dropped. I didn't think much of it, just assumed it was a side benefit of the surgery. The content of that message I saw that night still echoed clearly in my mind. I let out a small laugh. That night, Marco didn't come home either. I called his phone. He answered almost instantly. Where are you? I asked. And on the other end I could hear the wind blowing. Just left work. I'm heading home. Missed me? His voice was still a bit hoarse. If I hadn't already confirmed with his colleague that there was no overtime that night, I might have believed him. Was it because he'd upset that girl, Sele, the night before, that now, even at night, he had to lie to me about working late just to comfort her? Marco, I'll come find you. Maybe he sensed something off in my tone, because he paused for a few seconds. Then, with a hint of laughter in his voice, he told me the location. It's cold outside. Bundle up. Stay safe. Chapter 9. Marco's injuries were far more serious than I had imagined. Of course they were, with all that blood. How could I expect him to open his eyes the next morning without a scratch? He was admitted to the ICU and remained unconscious for 2 or 3 days straight. During that time, I finally unlocked his phone. Fingerprint recognition really is a useful feature. I couldn't stop myself from going over those chat logs again and again. Every word he said to that girl, all the tenderness he gave her, in the dead of night, they felt like knives carving into my chest. While Marco lay asleep, that girl kept sending him messages. A flower shop opened downstairs. It's really pretty. Marco teacher. Do you have class this afternoon? Let's catch a movie afterward. Hey, why aren't you replying to me? Are you there, Marco? What's going on? I went to your school, couldn't find you. Did something happen to you, Marco? You'd never ignore me like this. Marco, I miss you so much. At night, lying on the narrow cot in the hospital room, I kept rereading those messages. The girl was still texting, her words landing again and again on this very phone. Reading them. I ran to the bathroom and threw up violently. Marco, you're something else. That girl loved you so much. She was tearing herself apart too. A young nurse who checked in on me daily said I looked unwell. She suggested I get a full body exam since I was already at the hospital. When I came back with the test results, I saw a girl in a white dress standing outside Marco's room. Strange how sometimes a person's sixth sense is frighteningly accurate. I called her name cautiously. The girl turned around immediately, her eyes clear like a spring. Sele. There aren't many private spots for talking near the hospital, but we found a small ramen shop. It was around 3 or 4 p.m. No customers. She leaned on her hand, lazily stirring the noodles in her bowl. You know Marco's girlfriend is me, right? I asked. She just shrugged. Of course I know. But you see, sis, in love, there's no such thing as who came first. A strand of hair fell across her pale shoulder. She gave me a smile. Not exactly friendly. Besides, you two weren't even married. It was a challenge. Plain and simple. Knowingly becoming the other woman. Huh? You two really are made for each other. I lowered my gaze. My stomach burned like it was on fire. She just laughed. So confident. Like she held every card in her hand. So how about you hand Marco over to me? Or are you going to go all hysterical? A crazy woman's just pathetic. Don't make yourself look cheap. There was victory in her eyes. She probably thought her moment had come. And maybe she was right. The content of that test report I had just received flashed through my mind. I stood up and said softly, eyes downcast, then, when Marco wakes up, tell him yourself. I'm not his girlfriend anymore. You are. Chapter 10. Selena probably didn't expect me to give in so easily. Her real name was Selena, and as luck would have it, when we returned, the doctor told me Marco had just woken up. The girl rushed in and practically threw herself at his bedside. Marco, smart as he is, probably understood everything the moment he saw us both there. Across the girl's shoulder, he and I locked eyes, quietly. He always had this inexplicable tenderness when he looked at people. Even now, it felt like I was still the only one in his eyes. A sliver of light stretched across the floor. I inhaled softly, and finally said what I didn't get the chance to that day. Marco, let's break up. A long silence followed. He didn't look surprised at all. Instead, he laughed suddenly. Should have wiped my phone clean before I got in that accident. That's Marco for you. If it had been the old me, I probably would have lost it. I would have demanded answers, thrown everything within reach at him. I would have grabbed Selena's hair and fought her on the spot. But now that the words were out, I simply turned around, quietly. Behind me, he asked calmly, now that we're breaking up, can we still be friends? I shook my head and pushed the hospital room door open. Marco didn't know. I didn't have a later anymore. Chapter 8. The university Marco taught at was quite close to our home. I could walk there. The streets were quiet at night. Only near the campus did I start to see a bit of life. Marco stood at the corner of the night market, waiting for me, hands in his coat pockets. Tall and striking, now that I think about it. He never had the temperament of someone who'd settled down. I rehearsed what I wanted to say over and over as I approached him, but he suddenly pulled me into a hug. Leaning down slightly, he ruffled my hair. Why are your brows so tightly knit? Feeling that upset? Marco, do you really not know why I'm upset? The flickering lights danced across his face, the smoky air swirling between us. Everything I'd been holding together in my mind unraveled in an instant. Is life just one continuous film? And no one ever knows when or how the twist will come. When the truck's brakes failed and sparks lit up the air, Marco shouted my name. That day, I remember clearly, I had gone to him to break up. That day, I remember clearly, he had lied about working late just to comfort that girl named Sele. Marco had said he'd long since lost feelings for me. But when that out-of-control delivery truck charged toward us, the one who instinctively pushed me out of the way was still him. That spreading pool of blood seared into my eyes. I lost it, crawling toward him to check his injuries, but he just smiled, lifting a hand to ruffle my hair. As long as you're okay, Marco. Tell me, is it really that hard to love just one person? Chapter 11. On the 4th day of Marco's hospitalization, in the 6 hours after he woke up, 20 minutes before he saw Selena, I received my medical report. I thought my new easily slimmed physique was some kind of blessing, explaining how I could eat several cakes late at night without gaining weight. I thought the recurring stomach pain was just a post-surgical side effect. The nurse who commented on my pale complexion, the one who rushed to the bathroom to vomit that night. Early stages have no symptoms. In the middle and late stages, the abdominal pain becomes more noticeable. It never crossed my mind that I had a tumor growing on the mucosa near my stomach. In the exam room, with only half the curtain drawn, my hands and feet suddenly went numb. No, doctor. Are you sure it's not? The doctor furrowed his brow, cut me off after a pause. Did you come alone? I'm not trying to scare you. So I'll be blunt, it was discovered too late. If we don't take it seriously now, you might only have a few months left. You need to be admitted immediately. Contact your family and decide as soon as possible whether to undergo surgery or start chemo or radiation. Maybe I sat there too long in a daze. Because the doctor sighed and patted my shoulder. You don't need to panic. Our hospital specializes in this. We've had many successful cases. I sat on a bench in the hospital hallway the entire morning. Why hadn't they found anything wrong during the last surgery? Why now? Why me? Haven't I been through enough already? Even the right to simply keep living, does heaven want to take that from me too? The doctor asked if I had any family. In truth, my mom passed away a year after I graduated college, and I had a falling out with my relatives when they started eyeing my grandfather's inheritance. In all these post-grad years, I'd only had Marco by my side. Maybe Marco was right, people's passion really does burn out. That's probably why he stopped loving me. We'd been together so long. Maybe we forgot what love even was, whether we still had it for each other at all. People rushed back and forth down the hospital corridor. But for me, even existing here already felt like a luxury. I hadn't thought about my mother in so long. Yet in that moment, her face seemed to appear right in front of me. Take me away, please. Take me away. I suddenly broke down and cried right there in the hallway. An older woman nearby, clearly unable to watch silently any longer, handed me a tissue and gently held my shoulder, speaking softly. Sweet girl, it's okay, don't cry. My son is 11. He got into a fight with me and swallowed a whole bunch of thumbtacks to try and kill himself. Sigh. I only started regretting things now. So many things I should have handled differently back then. You see, everyone's struggling. That's why you have to treasure the ones around you. Maybe she thought I was a patient's family member. I clutched the report in my hands. But who do I even have left now? I suddenly remembered a conversation with Marco one day about who would die first. I told him I wanted to go before him. He said sure, gently bumped his forehead against mine. I'm yours, until the day you die. I'll always be by your side. I walked in a daze down the stairs of the hospital, heading toward his room. How laughable. Even then, even though he'd cheated, my instinct was still to check if he'd woken up yet, to ask him what treatment plan I should choose. But that day, standing at the stairwell corner, watching a girl in a white dress in front of his room, I understood clearly. Marco was no longer mine. He had already left me behind. Chapter 12. When the last leaf of autumn fell, Marco broke up with Selena. To him, it seemed like a trivial matter, but Selena was nearly hysterical. He lowered his eyes and blocked her, even as messages from her kept pouring in. A car horn blared nearby. He looked up at the bustling night market. Suddenly, he remembered how 2 years ago, he had pulled a girl out of the path of an oncoming car. Strange. How that girl had left him 2 years ago now. Marco never doubted that he loved her. In fact, when he was in love with her, his feelings had never burned so fiercely. So much so that after they separated, the ache was endless. There were times he was tired of her. But in the end, the one he couldn't forget was still her. So he broke up with Selena. He knew it would be hard. Very hard. But still, he wanted to try and win her back. How had she been all these years? Was her stomach still giving her trouble? Did she still skip breakfast? Still walk barefoot across cold tile floors? He kept thinking of her unconsciously during every lonely night. Even when he was with Selena, all he could think of was her. Marco had always been someone who followed his instincts. If he still loved her, he'd try to get her back. The first thing he tried was adding her back on Instagram via her phone number. but she never accepted. Her profile picture and display name had both changed. Back when they broke up, she had blocked him everywhere, left, clean and final. He remembered clearly what he had said to her that day. He'd asked if they could still be friends. She had shaken her head, so the road to getting her back might be difficult. But he didn't believe he'd fail, because he knew she was ridiculously soft-hearted. Honestly, maybe it was because she came from a single-parent family. She was so easy to control. Be gentle, and she'd think you were the only one for her. Smile at her, and she'd think you were a good man. When Instagram didn't work, he tried to find her through other means. It seemed she had moved away from the city. Strangely, though he had a wide network, no one seemed to know anything about her anymore. He finally managed to add one of her former close friends on Instagram. That person cursed him out, then blocked him again. Live the rest of your life in regret. You scumbag. He raised his brows. No, he didn't think he would. As long as he could see her again, he believed he could win her back. He knew her too well, knew what she liked, knew how to make her laugh. These things had already become second nature, deep in his bones. That's why she lingered in his mind so long. He didn't believe she had truly forgotten him. Then one Saturday, at a drinking party, a few high school classmates had come to visit their university for a research trip. As the drinks flowed, old memories resurfaced. Marco wasn't a heavy drinker, so he leaned on his hand, half-dazed, listening to them brag. But the moment he heard her name, he suddenly looked up. Hey, remember that old classmate? Such a pity, passed away so young. Yeah, I even attended her funeral earlier this year. Stomach cancer, wasn't it? So sad. Heard her parents were gone too. Died all alone. So young. Stomach cancer. Funeral. These words felt so foreign, as if he'd never even heard them before in his life. He stood up abruptly. Every pair of eyes turned toward him. His mind buzzed. Maybe it was the alcohol. Maybe he heard wrong. Maybe it was someone else with the same name. She couldn't be gone? She died? A year ago? He'd never see her again? Never find her again? What does death mean? It means you'll never meet again in this lifetime. He went mad searching for traces of her, trying to prove she still existed, trying to prove someone had lied, that none of it was real, trying to prove it was all a cruel joke. But no, he found an address and a tombstone. The wind howled, the mountains were high, the road long. She was gone. When he turned around to chase her, it was already too late. Not even a sorry could be said in time. Memories came crashing over him like a tide, and every insignificant emotion now seemed unbearably huge. He knelt before her grave from sunrise to sunset, but ashes to ashes, dust to dust. There was no one left to forgive him, no one to hear him speak. He wasn't even worthy of knowing she had died. Wasn't he also abandoned by her? He started locking himself in his room, downing bottle after bottle of beer. Only when alcohol numbed his mind did she seem to reappear. That girl, squatting in front of him, chin resting in her hand, ruffling his hair. You're really such a strange person. You were the one who stopped loving me first, so why are you crying like this now? Later, he fell apart. Only when surrounded by aimless people did he feel a flicker of redemption. He was always being dragged out to drink, though his tolerance was terrible. One day, he drank until he puked again. He ran into the bathroom and stared into the mirror. He looked for a long time, then punched the mirror until it shattered. Blood ran down his hand, the shock numbing his palm. The man in the mirror was now in 1,000 broken pieces. He trembled, whispering, Why, Marco? Why couldn't you just love one person properly? Why did you let her go? Why did you think you could get her back any time you wanted? He finally realized he had never stopped loving her. That love had just sunk too deep into his bones, so it was easy to throw away. But the loss was suffocating. Suddenly, he picked up a shard of glass. Then, staring into the mirror, he carved a large X across his face. Blood poured down his cheek. Even his so-called friends were terrified and rushed him to the hospital. Someone sat beside him, nudged his shoulder. Hey, feeling down? Let's go find something fun. Chapter 13. He began drifting through every bar in the city, even with scabs and scars on his face. That face of his still drew a swarm of butterflies. There was a woman once who caressed his cheek and said, "I just love the look of a man full of stories." From then on, women and alcohol became the main melody of his life. There were things he desperately wanted to forget, and couldn't, so he stopped trying. Instead, he did whatever he could just to stop thinking. People in his circle whispered about it. All the women he got involved with looked remarkably alike. Some had similar personalities, some had similar faces. That madness of longing, he tried to ease it that way. But one day, it surged back like a dam breaking. Everyone looked like her, but none of them were her. And then, staring into those familiar features, he felt his stomach churn. He ran to the bathroom and vomited until the world spun. Chapter 14. Selena found Marco holed up in his apartment, drinking alone. When he opened the door, the stench of alcohol poured out. He scanned her from bottom to top, clicked his tongue, and moved to shut the door. She stopped it with her hand. "If I didn't come looking for you, how much longer would you keep rotting like this?" Selena crossed her arms and stared at him. Truth be told, even in this broken state, Marco still exuded that untouchable edge, one that warned people not to get too close. Marco relaxed his brows and let out a dry laugh. "You done yet?" "Done? Marco, we were together for 2 years. You were with that girl for how long? And you're falling apart over her? Then what was I to you?" He stared at her, silent for a while, then spoke in a tired, irritated tone. "Come in." Selena immediately recognized the place. It was the same apartment Marco once shared with that woman. Nothing had changed in the layout. The only difference was the mess of crushed beer cans on the table. "Selena," Marco said, voice low like a ghost in the wind. "You know why I added you that day in the game?" She probably doesn't even remember, but the first game account I ever registered for her. The nickname I gave her was also Sele. I'd had a fight with her that day. Calling you Sele felt like calling her. My passion for her had started to fade. You, to me, were like a brand new version of her. That's why I thought you were more interesting. Selena's eyes widened, listening to him dissect their entire relationship in such chilling calm. She couldn't hold back. She grabbed a can and threw it at him. "You really are a fucking piece of shit." Selena suddenly remembered the first time she met that woman, how she'd gone to provoke her, saying being hysterical made women look cheap. But now, she wanted to lose her mind. She had been a stand-in for 3 years? Marco, who had you really been looking at all along? That disgusting ex? Then what the hell was she? The answer was painfully clear. She used to think she'd beaten that girl in every way. But in the end, who had the last laugh? A dead woman? Watching her unravel, Marco gave a dry cough, stood up, and moved to escort her out. He pushed her toward the door. The shouting and sobs were soon sealed behind it. He looked at himself in the mirror. Today was important. He didn't want anyone interrupting him. Chapter 15. Christmas Eve. The streets were already steeped in a festive, joyful mood. It was probably the first time Marco had stepped outside in half a month. He took a shower, shaved, dressed neatly, and headed out. December 24th, this was the day he'd confessed his love to her. The city shimmered with neon lights. Everyone seemed to be in pairs, holding hands, laughing, bathed in warmth under the glow of a sleepless night. Marco walked with his hands in his pockets, but was suddenly bumped into. "Brother, take this bouquet. If you like someone, be brave and confess." A little boy shoved a huge bouquet of flowers into his arms, probably part of some mall promotion, randomly giving out flowers to encourage people to confess their love. Marco stood there holding the flowers, momentarily at a loss. If only she were still here. Then came the guilt, vast and unrelenting, flooding his chest. "Excuse me, would you sell me that bouquet?" A boy's voice interrupted his thoughts. It was a cheerful young man, with soft curls and a likable smile. "I made my girlfriend mad and wanted to buy her some flowers. But you know how it is, nothing left on the shelves tonight." They were likely a couple still deep in the honeymoon phase. Marco, dazed, handed over the bouquet. He didn't want the money, but the boy had already slipped a red bill into his coat pocket. The boy thanked him and left. Marco remained frozen in place. He had bought flowers for her, too, once, when they were setting up their new home. He had filled their fridge entirely with roses. Back then, he really did love her. loved her so much that he couldn't bear to hurt her, even a little. Now the memories were eating him alive. What if he hadn't done what he did? What if he hadn't let her down? What if he had stayed with her? Would they have spent her last Christmas together? Marco felt he was developing a real drinking problem. He found another bar and started drinking and drinking. His alcohol tolerance had never improved, and he always ended up puking, but only when drunk could he see her again. Like now, he spotted a girl walking by who looked so much like her. He tore through the crowd like a madman, trying to reach her, but by the time he hit the street, nothing, just a sea of strangers. Drunk again, hallucinating again, but this time, he'd messed with the wrong people. Hey, asshole, you blind or what? A burly man grabbed him. Marco had once trained in Sonda, but the alcohol and exhaustion had long hollowed him out. He was slammed against a wall, then dragged into an alley by a group of men. Outside, the festivities drowned everything. No one heard the violence within. Got any cash? Hand over something shiny. Huh? They searched his pockets and found only a ring. The moment he saw the ring, Marco's eyes snapped wide open. He reached for it, but one of the men dangled it out of reach like a joke. That ring, he had bought it with her. It was the only thing left that connected him to her. He struggled, cursed under his breath, and the men took it as a cue to start beating him. Punches, kicks, one after another. They were just drunks looking for an outlet. Marco curled up. One of the men finally noticed the ring was cheap. Just iron, no resale value, and tossed it to the ground. Marco cradled it like a treasure, shoving it back into his coat. Shit. Think he's dead? Forget it. Let's go. No one knew how long it was before they left. Marco felt like his insides were torn apart, like he might really die this time. But he laughed. Winter was cold. If he just lay here, would he ever wake up again? No one cared what happened in some back alley. Meanwhile, a parade float passed by, echoing with laughter and music. Marco didn't know that if he had opened his eyes and looked toward the next street over, he would have seen a boy walking up to a girl, holding the bouquet he'd bought from Marco. The girl had the face Marco longed for. Guess where I got these flowers? From Marco. You'd call him your ex, right? Oh, so he's here too? He still seems to love you, but I think he believes you're dead. He doesn't look like he's doing well. The girl brushed her fingers across the petals, shrugged nonchalantly. It started as my best friend wanting to mess with him. Then that group of friends got involved. I live abroad now, and somehow they even made a gravestone for me to convince him I was dead. So lame. I'm not dead. I'm very much alive. The doctors said surviving was unlikely, and I'm terrified they jinxed me for real. But whatever Marco thinks, it has nothing to do with me now. People should move forward. Honestly, after surviving that illness, he doesn't seem that important anymore. She stretched, raising the bouquet high in the air. Thanks. These flowers are really pretty. Midnight struck. The bells rang. Snow began to fall gently from the sky. Starlight shimmered. Neon lights dazzled. And with the faint jingle of bells, a new year arrived.